I'm Robin Pratt, and I'm a local extension educator at Douglas County, Minnesota.
My 1-year anniversary next week for Oklahoma County. Oklahoma. We can have an Oklahoma whatever.
That's right.
Let's try the word.
I'm David Hillock, I'm the State Consumer Horticulture State Master State.
And I'm Janet Carson, I'm the State Consumer Horticulture Master Gardener Coordinator at Arkansas.
Great. And well, as did I get everybody, Dave? I don't know why I kept wanting to skip you. It's really great to have you here today, and I'm really excited because we've got a lot of momentum going nationally. Now, some of you who were at the Montana Conference for Coordinators last September have heard some of the stuff I'm going to present first thing this morning, so you can tune me out, and I know some of you guys already do anyway, so it doesn't matter. But I'm going to kind of give an overview of the background of how we got to the point where we are today of having a national committee. How many of you were aware that there's an Extension Master Gardener National Committee? Okay, most of you have, so it's really starting to filter out, so that's really exciting to me. The committee was actually started back in 2006. When e-extension first started, there were funds available to create communities of practice. So I remember a group of us got together in Minnesota at the Arboretum there and talked about how can we bring all of our resources together, which, you know, the communities of practices are all doing that. How can we bring our resources together nationwide and create impact on consumer horticulture and the Master Gardener Volunteer Program? And notice I said consumer horticulture because at the time we were combined to do both consumer horticulture and Master Gardener training. And we started with consumer horticulture, and then as we got deeper into the community of practice for consumer hort, we realized that everybody's different. Everybody has different soils, different plants. So as we started thinking about developing training modules, we thought that's just not going to work for consumer horticulture. So that kind of floundered and kind of sat for a while. But the Extension Master Gardener side of it really took off. And we really started looking at how can we bring people together, use our resources, create resources to help people with their programming, and really maximize what we have across the country. So the first thing they did was develop the logo for national use and create a purpose statement. And Dave, I believe you were one of the original founding fathers of that committee, right? You're a legacy.
Oh.
That's what my point was. I was not on the first. So the primary purpose is to have a national focus. And without saying we want to be like 4-H, because we don't want to be like 4-H by any means, but we want that connection nationally where there's a voice, where there's a way to get together to talk about programs, things that we're doing, and right now, most of all, evaluation. We're going to talk a little bit about that today as well. So as a national contact, we don't have a national office, we don't have any money, we just kind of function as volunteers. And sometimes, as you know, when you're involved in opportunities for volunteering, we don't always get moving ahead as fast as we can, but I think we're making progress right now because we've got a lot of great people. Last year, we took the purpose and kind of picked it apart and not recreated it, but kind of really looked at it and said, what do we really do? Because the purpose that we inherited, when I say we, it's the current committee structure, was really detailed and in depth, and it was very grandiose, but it was much more than we could possibly do. So after a few years of looking at it, we thought, this is more realistic. So we started taking the purpose, we picked it apart, and we basically put it back together so it actually can happen. So one of the things is cooperation, as I mentioned, communications and collaborations to avoid redundancy. So if I've got a module on volunteer recruitment and I want to share it with others, it's a path to share with others easily. Facilitate the web-based courses. We have not done anything on that, and I'm not sure if we're going to be able to do anything on that. In fact, that might be something we look at saying, hey, this is not what we want to do right now over the next few years. Promote the sharing of state projects through the blog, and that has been fairly successful, although it's kind of floundered a little bit right now, but we're working on focusing on getting the social media back up again. Provide a network as a front line, and Lucy's going to talk a little bit later about niche. The Master Gardeners are going to be a very critical component of that because they're the deliverers of that effort. So when you hear what Lucy's talking about, you'll immediately connect what you're doing in the communities because they're the front line to deliver the horticulture message. So this is we have a network created, and we're going to strengthen that network. And then enhancing national recognition, we've got the e-news blast. How many of you get that? If you're not getting the e-news blast, it's the national newsletter. That guy right there, John Orick. Talk to him. He'll get you signed up for that. It comes out monthly. I'm sorry?
I can send them a link.
He's got all the information. We send him information. He'll take your information. If you're doing a regional conference, let's put it on there. It's the one way that we can actually communicate with everybody across the country. And this is not just state coordinators. This is state and county coordinators working together to promote programming. Very good. We got somebody, John. So we started that, and John takes care of getting that sent out, so he puts it together. So John, we thank you for all that work as well. We also have the e-extension listserv that Terry James from Nebraska handles. If you're not on that, which I'm assuming everybody in here should be on that. The e-extension listserv, is everybody on that? Okay, because I'm assuming that's why you're here today, or part of it. So that's another piece. Again, state coordinators, we encourage you to get your county coordinators signed up for this. There is a state coordinator listserv, and there is a county coordinator and all coordinator listserv. So again, that's the only method we have right now of keeping everybody communicating together. The coordinators conference, and Mike is hosting this. I'll talk a little bit later about it. We'll bring it up in Wisconsin, 2018, August of 2018. Last year we were in Montana. It was absolutely an incredible conference. It was a great conference. The best thing about that conference, next to Yellowstone and Hot Springs, getting to see the original person who started our program, Dr. David Gibbsby. That was really quite an honor. In fact, it gives me goosebumps. He was very, very impressive. He was passionate. And the thing that struck me the most is he said the program, when he first put it out there, all the administrators were like, this isn't going to work. And then you look at it across the country today, and it's just like phenomenal. And then also support the efforts of the International Master Gardener Conference. So this year it's in Oregon. In 2 years it'll be in Pennsylvania. Nancy Canals and those folks have decided to take that on. So our committee kind of acts as a liaison, and Gail Angeletto is on our committee as a liaison for that conference. I shortened the URL. Sorry, it's osu.edu, but it's the best way to get a shortened URL for me. EMG-NC Purpose, or you can go to e-extension and Google or search for Master Gardeners. That gives you everything. What that does is take you to the website. Pull this up here. Takes you to the website that has all this information. It has the purpose more in detail. And it also gives you our representatives and so forth. And the biggest challenge we have is a lack of a home. And you'll see that more when we start talking about some of the resources. We don't have a home server to house everything. So right now, Terry's been very gracious to do all the stuff on e-extension. That's kind of been our home server, but not everybody in the country participates in e-extension. So that kind of makes it a real challenge when it comes to actually getting people, getting people connected and getting people to know where the website is. So that is one of our big challenges right now, is to try to figure out where our home server might be, because the challenge is no university, unless somebody in here says our university will do it, no university wants to host a national program like this, because if I host it, then I leave the program, then I'm still responsible for hosting it. So it's a real challenge for us right at this point, but we're working through it. Again, we restructured the committee. So we had committee members, we had five representatives. We had at-large and liaisons to the committee. We kind of had things, a little bit of every location. We weren't really sure exactly who was doing what, and also then what subcommittees or task forces we had. So we restructured the committee, and Nicole is right back here. Nice to meet you, Nicole. She handles our coordinators discussions. How many of you are familiar with those? Monthly coordinators, outstanding. John Orick is in charge of continuing education. He's an at-large person. Toby Day is on the committee in charge of marketing. Terry James handles our social media. Mike is handling fundraising and partnership. And Mike, you're lagging here because we don't have any money yet. But
I thought it was taken off that. But
we're waiting on you.
I'll get on that.
And that's another huge challenge. I mean, unless there's a grant somewhere available that we can tie into with others, there's just not money for our opportunities or for our work. So that's a challenge, and if we get there, we will. If we don't, that's the way it is. Gail Angeletto has done the volunteer management resources, but she's transitioning to Sherry Dorn, who is on via Zoom, and Sherry's going to talk about those in a little bit. Mike is doing a great job with the Impact and Evaluation Task Force, and he's going to talk a little bit more about that, because that was one of our main focus areas for the next year, besides communication, that impact and evaluation. As I mentioned, Gail's the conference representative, and Mike is on at large again because of being the coordinators conference. We do not have a coordinators conference for 2020. So if anybody would like to host that, being in Wisconsin, going southwest Ohio, southwest of the country, part of the country, south part of the country, Florida somewhere. If anybody would like to host that, Florida, Georgia line, pretty good. If anybody'd like to host that, let us know, because we definitely like to have those planned out well in advance. And they're really a lot of fun, and we hope that people attend those as well. So in terms of the bylaws, we inherited some bylaws, and again, they were kind of, they weren't vague, but they were just kind of generic as they, when they developed the committee. We looked through the process, we voted and updated the bylaws, voted on it last June, so those are now taken care of. We have 6 regional representatives, because we felt we needed more representation, elected representation on the committee. We figured out the election process, and we also said that county coordinators are eligible if their state coordinator says, yeah, go for it, that'd be great. And we added position descriptions for all the positions. So last year in September at the conference, September, we had all these open positions, and we said, okay, we're gonna have elections, and it was just overwhelming at how many people we actually had who wanted to join and be part of the committee. So we recruited the candidates, we announced the candidates, we had the elections, they started, they've got 2-year consecutive terms, and we now have a full committee, which is really exciting because it's been a while since we've had a full committee, right, Terry? We can go back probably 6 years maybe, and through nobody's fault, it just kind of things went up and then they kind of floundered, and now they're going back up again, so we're really happy that that's occurring. So there are your representatives, Vanessa, Toby, Missy Gable, myself, and Natalie will be here this afternoon, and John Freeborn right there from Virginia Tech. So we're really excited that we have a strong committee. We have really good people in the committee, and we have liaisons and at-large members that are just outstanding. So again, I keep saying I'm excited, but I've been around for a while, and I've been part of this process, and I've watched it ebb and flow, and I think we're really on the right track right now. This is the logo that was developed, but then John took that and put it into the e-news blast, so you can get part of that, or you can be part of the e-news blast. Again, if you have information, send it to him. He'll put it out there. There's always dates on there. Send it to your coordinators. Get it out to people in the counties. And as I mentioned, Nicole does the monthly, and if you want to talk to Nicole about these monthly seminars, if you want to do a monthly seminar, I'm sure you don't have people lined up doing it.
I'm struggling right now because the person who's hosting it changed, and so now we need to find another opportunity for that. But if you have a gift to present, or if you want to distribute things, then you know, let me know.
So changed in terms of Adobe Connect to.
Yes, then we try to find other sources for the discussions. It's been a little while for the discussion. There's a different process of trying to archive the conversations. So now it's been a challenge, but we'll figure it all out.
But are you looking for somebody then to host it, like through Zoom?
I think we can still do it through the extension. It just takes some time to schedule that. And if anyone
Okay. So if anybody can help out in either way, but especially if you want to do a topic, and anything on volunteer management is absolutely welcome. And they're recorded, and the recordings are posted on e-extension. And hopefully if we get the resources the way we want them to be, we can have everything in one location, one site. Mike and I did a Twitter town hall last summer. It was a lot of fun. It was interesting. It was an experience for us. There were some things that we would have changed, but again, looking at the social media, looking at getting the name out there in terms of Master Gardeners. And again, the listserv, see Terry James if you want to join that listserv and be part of that, or get your other county coordinators involved in that information.
Can you not switch?
All EMG coordinators.
Thank you.
Yes, ma'am. So the other thing was, and this is like I said, Mike's working on this. The other thing that was really missing was impact and data. We had not done an impact assessment for the United States, for the whole country, since since Dave hosted the coordinators conference in Virginia back in 2008. And at that time, our liaison to NIFA, which was CSREES at the time, said he would help us get that done. So the committee and NIFA put this all together, and we came out with the results of the information that we wanted to get out there. But the problem at that time was that we were all collecting different stuff, and we still are today. It hasn't changed. And this was really important last year. This coordinator from, I forget where he was from, but he said this is one of the biggest things, is telling MGs to report their hours. He said it's just, you know, and we all know that. We all struggle with that. So if anybody has a magic tool and how you get people to report their hours, that would be a great coordinator's call, because that is really a challenge. So it's telling that we need to work on that. This was our first survey in 2009, and there'd been nothing done since then. So the committee in March 2015 embarked on a 2014 survey. So we sent everything out to people. That was a challenge, just putting that together, because we took the previous survey, we added a few things on social media, but again, I analyzed that data and there was stuff all over the board, because none of us collect the same thing except maybe number of volunteers, number of hours, and number of education hours. So we do collect that one base point. So we beat the doors down. We contacted everybody. We had a return in June. We reported it in March 2016. And we had contacts. We had community gardens. We tried to focus on some of the things that are really current today, the local foods and the food security. And we had 38 states report out of 50. Now, Massachusetts doesn't have a program, so there were some states that didn't have actual programs. New Hampshire was not funded by NIFA money, so you know there were some things we had to look at. There were anomalies, but we were really disappointed that we only had 38 states. And this was the report we sent out. It was good information. Thank you. That was a good thing, right? We got it done. Toby Day, Montana State did all the graphics, so it was really nice to have all that information. We thought pounds of produce was important, but that's kind of a starting point, I think, for where we're going next. We asked Mike if he would take charge of a task force. So Mike and Terry and several others have been involved in a task force, and he's going to kind of talk about that here shortly, to try to come up with a way to get everybody on the same page, to get everybody kind of sort of collecting the same data, and to try to figure out what data they should be collecting that's really going to make the most value to our stakeholders. So they have just been working on this, and because they've got the momentum going, they did another survey of last year's hours. So everybody should have reported by now. If you haven't, we need it right away, because they need to evaluate that data again and get another report out. So at least we have every 2 years maybe now, we're going to get national statistics out there. Here's the standards: impact reporting, community efforts change, strengthen the program, show the value of consumer horticulture, which again, this is going to talk about when we get to niche, and show the value of grassroots efforts. So in terms of our needs, right now, the focus of the committee is to look at the task force on evaluation impact, try to figure out how we get everybody reporting that same information, continue our national presence, marketing our successes, and as mentioned earlier, the coordinators conference, trying to make sure we continue bringing people together. There will be an opportunity if you're going to Oregon. Gail Angeletto has set up something for us to meet out there. I'm not sure I know the date or have seen the date of it, but we're going to try to meet as Monday. Try to meet as coordinators out there as well. So at least touch base yearly as much as we possibly can. So with that, I am going to turn this over. This is kind of the agenda for the rest of the morning, and we're in great shape. Mike and Terry are going to talk about the evaluation. We're going to bring Sherry up, though this might be a challenge. Sherry is actually on Zoom. She won't be here till Wednesday, so we're going to Zoom her in and hopefully be able to hear what she's talking about in terms of the resources. Lucy's going to talk about niche. I'll finish up with niche currently, what's happening. And then, as I mentioned, we'll grab the box lunch, we'll get the vehicles, and head to the Arboretum for a great afternoon of botanizing. So with that, Mike, I will turn it over to you.
I want to make you stand up here with me. Good morning, everyone. Your moral support, thank you.
She's doing the Zoom. Oops, I don't want that one.
Okay, so you're driving there. Well, good morning, everyone. I'm glad Pam shared some of the history with the old evaluation up there, because that's really what got my engine going for this. Is when we finished that product in 2015 and showed that there was a lot of really great response to that from a lot of administration. At least I know there was from Wisconsin. They gave us, our chancellor, or dean at the time, gave us connections with some of the marketing groups that, like Ag is America, that Cooperative Extension has been working with, which led to some of the town hall, the Twitter town hall, and that. And there's some other opportunities there that we need to follow up on. But one of the things that I had the opportunity to do is at last April's NEROC meeting, the National Extension Administration, Ag Research, whatever. It was the administrative meeting. I met someone from USDA NIFA evaluation specialist, Lynn, and we had a really great conversation about reporting, but she said something that was really meaningful to me. She goes, you guys collect a lot of hours, but so what? What does it mean? What do these hours mean? And we had a really great conversation on how can we start providing context for these numbers. So you have 5 million hours, but 5 million hours doing what? As well as conditions. Because of the Master Gardener program, what kind of changes are actually going on in the communities? And that was really kind of the beginning of how we started to look at evaluation of how we're going to define the context and conditions of what Master Gardeners are doing. I also just want to just take a small tangent here. Is we know the niche group has been working, and I think there's a lot of opportunity there where we can make sure we're connecting. And I'm looking forward to talking to niche members today, and we're going to talk, Lucy, because we need to find where we're overlapping, how we can work together. And we were counting on these face-to-face moments to say, okay, let's find those touch points and connect. So I just want to make that known here. So when Lynn took some initial look at our data and we shared with her that nice soil profile of what we've done, it was her suggestion based on that initial work that we start off with Master Gardeners and food security. Recognizing there's a lot of things that Master Gardeners could be doing, but let's start with the one thing that most of us are already doing, and that's pounds of produce and what Master Gardeners are doing, playing a role in the community gardens and whatnot. So focusing in on that, we gathered a team together, and there's been people who've come in on and off of this or played different roles. Of the core team that has been working with me probably the most, Terry, Sherry, who she's available electronically, and then Susan DeBleek from Iowa State, who's not here today. We've been with this from the beginning, but we've also had a number of individuals who've stepped in, contributed, and have had to pull away, as well as some other folks who are coming on board to help move it forward. But so as part of this exploration and working with Lynn and figuring out what it is, like I said, we focused on food security. We had in December, I'm going to say retreat, I forgot what it was called. It was kind of like a boot camp with the extension where Terry, Susan, and I spent 3 days with key informants that we didn't really talk to. They weren't helpful, but we figured stuff out. And we walked out of there with a plan of what we want to eventually do is to the national standards that were put together for the Master Gardener program, and knowing how that has benefited some states with their programs. We want to do an addendum to that regarding evaluation reporting so we can start getting that meaningful information collected, and that we're all collecting the same information. I think the best example we have on how we're not collecting the same things is one state was collecting number of gardens with children, and another state was collecting the number of children in gardens. Yeah, we need the same units. So, and I actually thought, well, we can have this done by February. No. So what we did was we've come up with what we have as a pilot. Some of you have seen this because it's now in the slow rollout stage. And I can share this link with you. But the idea is, so just so everybody knows, I'll share this with you. You can see the old report. And so far I've done a video that explains what we've done so far and how you can start to pilot this in your area. But what we've done here, and because this is on Pam's computer and not mine, I don't know what'll happen here. Boom. What we've done here is we put together a worksheet that at this point we hope you will explore, because we realize this just needs to be road tested, because within our groups we just kept debating it and debating it, and kind of like, yeah, we just got to put it out there, see how people do it, and then based on their responses, make our next evolution of the product, of this product. What we realized with this whole recommendation we want to put forward, we already know that most states are keeping track of, help me with this, hours of volunteers, amount of continuing education, and number of volunteers. It's just some of those basic numbers. What we wanted to do then and we recognize it's with increasing burden. We've talked about this a lot as we go along, it gets more and more complicated. How do we start to add that context, the so what? So with this, and see if I can make it a little bigger without going too big. So if this was looking at a project, how many, and this is about food security, and with food security, we're talking about anything that can be related to growing something, eating something, consuming something. I'll let you guys decide what food security is for you, but we're going to keep it very broad. It's about getting master gardeners to grow food, community gardens, whatnot. And so keeping track of the number of adults that are participating in their food security related projects, number of youth, how many master gardeners were involved, and the number of hours they put in. And if that was all you can get, great. That's a little bit more information than we've ever had before. But if you got the opportunity to take it a little further, how many pounds of produce were done and donated during this time? And we'll be talking about this more during our talk, I don't know when, Tuesday, on some of the work we've been doing on this. And even to go into some of that conditional stuff, or more context, is this with a low-income audience? So basically, if some of our nutrition ed partners are doing it, is that a low-income qualifying audience? And again, if you can at least get this, that's great. But if you got the opportunity to go a step further, we recognize it's more burden, and that's where I think some partnership with some of the work Lucy's been doing. Can we get more data there? If we scroll down, we're also looking for total number of master gardeners who are completing continuing ed in food security related stuff. So, we had 12 master gardeners who did extra work or did their continuing ed in this, and how many hours was that? And in talking to Lynn about if that was important, she said, yes, it is, because what that's doing is it's starting, she's borrowing some of the language from the National Pest Diagnostic Network about their continuing ed. And this begins to show how master gardeners are different and either a professional or paraprofessional audience that we're working with. So it adds a little bit more oomph to our data. Now, this is a worksheet. I'll share the link. We want you to take this out, kick the tires, use and abuse it, and come back and tell us, okay, this is how it worked or didn't work for us, so we can help it evolve. But one of the things that we've discussed that was very important is we want to collect the data at the county level. So we're not doing state accumulatives of it. So our ultimate goal is we want to have a responsive map online that shows all the counties that participated. You mouse over it, and then you get the data of what was reported. The other thing that I've been telling, well, that goes into a lot more of that context. So instead of saying, Wisconsin donated 100 pounds of produce, which sounds abysmal and embarrassing, if I can come back and say that was Iron County with a population of 5,000 and master gardener program of 12, that's impressive. So it begins to get a little more of that context.
You got to this from the Wisconsin EMG slide?
I will just forward it to everyone. We'll do it that way. The other thing is that what we're asking when we're telling people to try it is don't do everything you're doing in your county unless you want to. But if you can just pick like one project or one community garden and do it really good. We want quality data rather than quantity data. We want good numbers. So if you just have one garden in your state or in one county in your state that you're going to use to do this, that'd be a much better data than trying to get every garden to do it and they kind of do it half-heartedly. So where we're going next with it is we want to go a little more into the conditional part of what difference master gardener efforts are doing in their communities. And this has been interesting because there's a lot of different ways we can go with it. one of our original thoughts based on the research out there was looking to see if master gardeners are involved in a community, what's happened to that neighborhood around the community. Has crime changed? Has, you guys know the data. There's a really great fact sheet floating around from Niche that starts to show some of the benefits of vegetation. But what were the improvements of that community? But with Lynn talking to Tom Buick, I forget Tom's title, but he's
our NIFA liaison.
Our NIFA liaison. He suggested that we look at the types of produce that is donated. So rather than just pounds, if you want to take it a step farther for a little bit more burden, is keep track of the different types of produce that is donated. And then what he suggested is then there is a calorie calculation done to see how many calories are put into food systems. Which, after some of the other things we've discussed, that sounds a lot more doable than trying to figure out if crime has changed. So that is our next step where we're going to need to kick those tires around. We've had an initial discussion about it. We know like 13 different vegetables that can be donated to food pantries for those gardeners in the north, but I need some info from the south to see how much of that is going to be applicable. So these are discussions that we need to have. I have to say we've not done a lot in the last 2 months just because this has been a really busy season for everybody involved. Plus, we've just needed to get this out to be road tested, as well as just to keep the momentum going. We've been pushing to have that previous survey redone. So probably our efforts over the last 2 months have been more in getting everybody to participate in the redo of that national survey to keep that momentum going.
It's going to be a place where, like, if I had a county that was doing a great job, they could go direct to their report, not reporting to me.
Our hope is with the USDA partnership is that there can be a website that they can host where this data can be entered. Otherwise, we don't know yet. At a minimum, it could be a spreadsheet that everybody we get filled up so it can be uploaded. That mechanism, we don't know yet. Right now, we just want people to start thinking about this is the type of data to be collecting so we have it on hand.
Do you still need pilot testers?
I could always use pilot testers. Right now, I put this all out there to some different folks, and they're like, yeah, we're doing it, and then it's crickets. So I don't actually know if it's happening or not. But I'm not expecting anything.
Yeah, we got plans.
I'm not expecting anything till like October, but I'm not even sure who to harass.
So so the USDA is actually working with 4-H on this big kind of reporting system thing. And they're hoping that maybe they can actually pull master gardeners into this.
Yeah.
But with the change in USDA and administration and budgets.
See, we're doing a really good job, I think, right now getting our folks to report online. But we don't ask specific questions, like how they're getting the hours. We just say put the hours.
You mean your volunteers,
right?
So this would be your coordinator.
Well, but I think in many cases it wouldn't be the coordinators; it'd be the person in charge of that community garden.
Well,
they're the ones that are going to keep up.
And see, and that, getting to that level of everybody. This is where every state does something different. And so that's why we want to float it out there to say, this is what we're trying to do. You guys can at least adapt this to the same units that we're running. Mm-hmm. And then we'll figure out how to massage it all in together later. Because I think Terry said it best. We're going to make it as a t-shirt. Before it's trying to compare apples to oranges. And there is no comparison. Now we just want a bucket of citrus fruit. There you go, Florida. We just want all the citrus in one bucket. Though it may be grapefruit and oranges, we at least know it could all tell kind of a comprehensive story together. So we questioned back there.
So, Michael, this document, is that what you would like to see for all of our projects, plus program as a whole?
Wow! Oh no! That sounds really big and scary. If I could have for this pilot part, if I could have like one county in every state participate and then give us feedback on what worked and where we can improve the next steps, that's where I'm at now. What we hope to do that is in the next 5 years, roll this out so this starts to become a slow rollout. because we realize it's going to take some time to get people to change. This is driving a big ship and getting it to do some course correction. And so we're doing it as a slow pilot right now. Hopefully next year, roll it out a little bit more for the 2018 conference, start to show what some of the impacts can be. And hopefully then between 2018 and 2020, for our Master Gardener Coordinator Conference, get a lot more to roll out with that. Yeah.
So in Ohio, I have 5 counties who volunteered to pilot this, and I'll be beating them to death, and then he'll be beating me to death. And I have given them this information, and maybe Cuyahoga has 30 community gardens. I said, just take 1 or 2 and give it to that garden leader. Let them track this data, because like you said, Jan, they're the ones that are going to be writing everything down, weighing and doing all that, and then collect those and get those back to me, which I'll then get to Mike in some kind of format. But it's piloting this right now to see if they say, well, this doesn't make sense, or doing this is not easy. Let's figure out a way to do it.
I think that we ask 2, I could ask 2 county gardens, but not the Master Gardener Coordinator, the Master Gardeners, because they're the ones who are going to take this over. And we tell them, you're being chosen to do this on a national level. They're going to think, wow, this is great. And they're going to give you more data than you want.
Yeah.
And I think, so part of the full citrus basket thing was when we were in
Detroit,
Montana, when we were meeting, everybody was like, well, I asked for this, and I asked for this. And well, theoretically, when you actually looked at it, we were all asking for about the same thing. We were just calling it something different by each state. So we thought by piloting this would help us figure out what is everybody calling whatever we're asking for, and to kind of help start that collecting everything into the same citrus basket. So
I know all of our structures and offices and county programs are different from each other. So we get some information sometimes on projects. But personally, I'm waiting for a template that I can just charge forward with and say, what do you need? What do you want? How can we come together as a group and make this easier? Because my university wants me to report one, face to face, but we're not necessarily reporting it, and the stakeholders require something else. And I understand those differences. And I'm also sitting here ready to commit time and energy into what do you want, what do you need to drive this forward. So I feel like I'm kind of waiting for however you want it, I can do it. And I assume there's a lot of other county and state coordinators that will do the same for you in the interim of trying to work out the kinks. I feel like if there's a standard that says, this is what I need from you, great, I'll fill that in.
Yeah, and that's where we want to go, is get this into those national standards for the EMG program, is to get it out there.
So this is just testing.
This is testing it, yeah. Yeah, I had a big reality check with it when I thought we were going to be done in February. No, it was keeping the ball rolling. But when we got to that point, we realized this needs to be road tested. And what's nice about collecting it, again, at the county level is, again, if you just have one county in your state participating, it'll register as that. So here will be it glowing. So that, because you're Idaho, right? Yeah, so here's the one county in Idaho that.
So I can go beyond one project of one garden.
Yeah, you could go beyond one.
If there's a list, or if there's something the national committee can develop that says, here are the standards for evaluation we want to hear from you about. Yes. Or we submitted our information for that survey, but Idaho didn't end up because of state representation.
So did you get it, the survey that we just sent out, you filled it out for this last year?
No, we didn't.
So you didn't get the 2015 survey link?
Requested and requested, not from you, but the communication gap, or we all get too much.
And that's it. We just have to make sure we make that connection, but it's not too late. We can still get it to you, because I haven't done the data yet at all. Sherry, did you hear that?
She's on that.
How many states have turned in so far this year?
I heard part of that, Pam. I just didn't catch a name.
Sherry, how many states have turned in this year so far?
We're at 38.
38, and Idaho said she did not get the link, so she and you need to connect, because she can still do it.
Great. Who is she?
Who is she?
Kootenai County Master Gardener program.
Are you the coordinator?
Yeah.
Okay, state
The
coordinator.
state board.
No.
See, and we've emailed.
Yes.
Yeah, because you don't have a.
Because our
That's the problem.
frustration, and I'm sure other states share it, is our state coordinator does too much on the plate.
But see, this is the problem that we've got to
And we've
address.
got county coordinators going, get it, get it.
Well, Missouri doesn't have state board.
You can't have too much on your plate to keep the program going, and that's, in my opinion, that's where we stand. That's where we stand. Yeah.
I agree.
Okay.
Yeah.
But
So
can you get state data? Can you get state? And I'm not. Can you get state data?
Can I?
Can you get state data? If you push this person to, can you get the state data?
I would love that. I mean, it matters in my communication to my commissioner.
Sure it does. Sure it does.
Same
Yeah.
thing.
Yeah.
So, yeah.
All right, we'll work on Idaho. Okay.
yes.
This is around foods. Are you going to be also trying to evaluate any other elements?
Yeah. So.
Because our states have big
Right.
emphasis on
So yes, and a lot of states have been coming up, and so coming on board, coming onto the committee now is Mary Wilson from Michigan, thank you, and Christy Marsden from Minnesota, who they're very interested in this about the pollinator bit. So what we need to do is come up with the performance measures on what regarding the whole pollinator movement actually is meaningful and makes a difference. I see a lot of things out there about we planted a bunch of milkweed. But what are the data points that we need to be collecting in order to move this forward? So as I explained to Christy, I want to get this food system stuff up and running and stay committed to that. But if she wants to be thinking about the pollinators and on how that can then evolve and start looking at the performance measures, I've sent her and Mary some information from the EPA website. That was a PDF I saved because you can't find it anymore. To them to maybe use this as some potential performance measures. But yes, we're starting to think ahead of what some other things could be. We chose this because, pun intended, it was low-hanging fruit. So, but we realize there's a lot of buzz regarding pollinators. Yes.
There are very specific issues as a nation that have to do with master gardeners' impact.
Yes.
One of them would be water quality and quantity.
Yeah, welcome to the committee.
So, and those things should not be that difficult to track ultimately. So I love what you've done with the food and the food security issue. I encourage you in future to look at, like 4 or 5 specific issues that as a nation we have to address.
Yeah.
And that issue of underserved is all the way through.
Yeah. Yeah. Go ahead.
We need to repeat what the people on the line can't hear what these people
Oh, I'm
are
sorry.
saying. So we kind of either need to repeat it or summarize it or something.
So going back to this task force, let me ask you this. Does anybody in here do a really good job of reporting their impact that their master gardeners are doing?
What's the question?
You do a good job, Nicole. You need to be on this committee to help us. I'm seriously, because I've been in extension. Janet's been in extension longer than I have. I've been here since '92. I haven't cracked this nut since 1992. Try to figure out, I know numbers, I know all that stuff, but impact, how are we changing things? So this is a tough nut to crack. And not only that, but we are asking 38 states right now to collect the same information in every county. So I'm asking 88 county coordinators to collect the same. I mean, it is a huge challenge. So I have to commend the task force for starting with this low-hanging fruit to get something that we can roll out to people who are right now reluctant to even fill out a survey because they don't have time to give us the numbers. What can we get from them that's easy to collect, and then get to where you're talking about, where we have those 4 or 5 standards that it's automatic. We all know we must do this.
Well, one of the things we're doing, is we're going to our state legislature. This year's a budget crisis. So they asked the master gardeners to go out and talk with their state legislators. And so when we went to them, of course, it was too late. They said we can't just do numbers. It has to have meaning.
Yes.
So so I gave a couple of examples, and one of the examples was a community that had a park that was just green space that nobody used. Master Gardeners took it over, and they created this wonderful park that now is the centerpiece of this community that everybody uses for everything. They started their plant sale there, and now their Chamber of Commerce makes an entire weekend in this community called Blooming in the Bay, where they bring in all these different events, and it all started because of that Master Gardener program. So that showed economic impact to that community, and it also showed quality of life improvement. Those were things that they could take back to their state legislators and say, this is what the Van Buren County Master Gardeners did. And then they could share their numbers too, because the numbers mean something. But they, because we all put these stupid numbers and say how much this is by a dollar value. That don't mean anything. So we're trying to give those examples. And so we're now adding that to every evaluation. What did you take away from this event that's going to change how you do something at home or in your program? And we want them to write up an impact after every event they do in their county, and try to share that either in their newspaper or and invite it, because we can't just go to the legislators once a year when we need funding. It's got to be something ongoing. We're asking the Master Gardeners to work with the community because it's impacting the county program. And I think what they don't realize is that I think a lot of people think that everybody knows who Master Gardeners are, or it's and I've heard it. I've been here a long time, 37 years. We've always heard that extension is one of the best club secrets, and so what I put out, we can't be a secret anymore. We've got to start sharing the story and doing it ongoing, not just when we do something. Well, this is our goal for this year.
Well, we kind of do that at one level. So we have kind of an exit evaluation of what will you do differently. But then I collect email addresses and send out a survey at the end of the season and then ask, what did you do differently? So then I can come back and say, as a result of this class on pollinators or this class on watering wise or whatever, that 65% people added more native plants to their landscape to make more. So I do have those numbers, and it's a really simple little evaluation. It's really easy. I just have a couple of really short questions for people to fill out. Amazingly, the really good response from people.
So do you have a link to that evaluation that you sent out? Or is it the same area?
Actually, this might be a good segue into Sherry.
Yeah, this leads into resources. So therein lies the problem, because you can go around every table and every single one of us collect that differently. And that's what Mike's trying to do, is get that citrus basket filled up, because you ask it one way, she asks it a different way. How do we get, we know we're doing good work. That's the frustration. We know we're doing great stuff, but how do we make sure the commission, I think it's going to be more apparent with Lucy and Mitch in terms of consumer horticulture, the value of consumer horticulture. We sat in a meeting 2 years ago in DC, or maybe it was, 2 years ago in DC, and one of the states there was saying, their administrators were saying, well, why do we need consumer horticulture? We have Master Gardeners to deliver the program. We don't need consumer horticulture. And it's like, whoa, wait. And so it's scary. It's scary if we don't report our impact. So I could stand up here and talk about that all day, but I'm not. So Sherry, are you there?
I'm here.
Yeah, go ahead. While we get Sherry, go ahead. Go ahead and pull your stuff up.
One of the things is that if they had to get rid of the consumer horticulture, no formal county, they would have all the hours the Master Gardeners do, which is they man the information desk at our extension. They perform reports on soil samples. They take all of the information for all of the programs to all of the library.
Do you have your Zoom?
If they didn't have consumer horticulture in the budget, then they wouldn't have any dissemination of this information that we provide.
Everybody in here who's a horticulturist knows that horticulture is the stepchild to agriculture, and consumer horticulture is the stepchild to horticulture. So that's our battle.
But it's being addressed, right, Lucy? All right, so what we didn't prepare for was speakers for Sherry. We're going to try to use, Mike, if you can shoot. Yours on. Mine's on. Mine's on and mine's loud.
Okay, so this, I think you're gonna get too much feedback. If you guys go back or be very quiet. Sherry, can you say something?
Yes, good morning.
Can you
Welcome.
guys hear in the back?
No,
Yeah, we got 4-H next door and they're really loud.
Mute ours.
Yeah, mute yours. Mute this one? Do one, as loud as it'll go. Yeah, it's as loud as it'll go.
What are you using extra, I see John's iPad going. Are you using that to amplify?
Is that okay? I think we're gonna be okay. I think we got it. Everybody just has to be really quiet. All right. Go. Yeah. I am.
Sherry, go.
Okay, well, good morning, everybody. I just wanted to share with you some materials. There's discussion. We all want more. So part of this national effort, this national committee effort to share our resources to benefit from someone else's wheel that they've already created. Thanks to the vision and leadership of Dr. Gail Langoletto at Oregon State, a resource repository was launched a couple of years ago. And she and I have been working together on this. If I were there in the room, I'd ask you how many of you had heard of the repository. We learned from a follow-up survey that it wasn't very well known. In fact, I have to remind myself sometimes to send my local coordinators in Georgia to this site. This is a place for us to share the resources that we're generating in our own states so that other folks, other programs can benefit. If you were to visit the site, and I'll try to flip that up here in a minute, but there's a number of categories for resources available to you. I know I frequently go to that conflict management section and share those resources with coordinators, but it's not limited to just that. There's tons of stuff there. And it is, again, meant to help you as local or state coordinators by sharing resources developed in other states so that you don't have to spend so much time reinventing that wheel. There are different types of content on this site, so you can find literature to read, you can find PowerPoints that possibly will be useful to you, and we also share templates. And I know a lot of us, if you look on that listserv between Extension Master Gardener coordinators, there's a lot of exchange. Hey, what are you using for this? What are you using for that? And this repository is a place to capture that and share it. And we've come up with some coding, so if you visit our site, you'll see a purple arrow. You know that that resource is just great. It is really good. It has been through a review process and has scores 90 or above in all three categories, evaluation categories, which I'll share with you in just a second. We've also got some resources designated for new coordinators, and in another project that I'm working on that I will share some information about on Thursday when I get there to Asheville, a lot of our coordinators are new. They are young, not young age-wise, but young in terms of their experience as a local or a state coordinator. So these resources are particularly valuable for people who are new to program coordination, Master Gardener program coordination. So if you want to dig more into this, if this repository is a new thing for you, you haven't heard of it before, if you want to hear the backstory, go to Journal of Extension. Gail and I have an article in there from last summer that kind of tells the story of what we've learned and the process behind the repository. So before I go into future directions, I am going to attempt to share that web page. Let's see if this will, yay, I hope you all can see it. But this is the Extension Master Gardener Coordinator Repository. It was moved to a Google site to make it easy to find. One of the things that we learned from our follow-up surveys was that coordinators couldn't find it. It used to be on an e-extension site, we couldn't find it. So if you can't find it, it makes it hard to use. So by putting it on a Google site, makes it easier for people to find it. And of course, you can flip through here. This is an engaging and teaching adults section, so you can see that there's a PowerPoint. We don't have any reading lists or templates for this category just yet. If you flip over to recruitment and selection, we've got some reading materials, we've got some PowerPoints, and we also have some templates. So that kind of gives you an idea of how we lay out this site. And I know that there's a ton of material that we could share through this repository. So let me slide back to our PowerPoint there. So that kind of brings me to what I think Pam was asking me to share with you, and that is future directions and ways to become involved in the project. I've got a couple of things. And we have been asked for topics that can be added, and then we also have talked about people. So with regard to new topics, we spent some time at the Extension Master Gardener Coordinator National Conference last September doing some interactive activities. People were asked to bring resources. We spent some time identifying topics. We had new resources nominated for review. So those topics are coming, those resources are coming to the repository, but I've also been asked if you're looking for something specific. And if you, for now, if you're looking for something specific, then I would encourage you to email the repository site coordinators directly. And I put my email up here because Gail and I are in the process of transitioning the site over, and I know that she has her plate full with that fantastic conference we're looking forward to this summer. So for now, you can send that on to me, and we'll add this functionality to the site. So these are some of the things that we're learning from you all as we grow this resource for each other. When we met in September, we indicated that we were looking for reviewers. This is a great thing to add to your professional dossier. You agree to read and review materials that have been nominated this site. So it's not a super lengthy process. You just go through the resources. We try to get it out there annually. Go through this review process annually, in other words. And then we acknowledge you on the site as well as following up with a certificate and letter. And the certificate and the letter is simply so that you have that documentation to put into your professional dossier. We have a very simple process for reviewing a resource. We use an online Qualtrics type tool so that once you review the resource that you've been asked to take a look at, you evaluate it in terms of its usefulness, transferability, and basis in research, and then you enter your information, your review commentary through a form. We give you a link to do that. So if this sounds like something you want to do, you want to join our team as a reviewer, going back to the repository website, on that very first page, you can click the button that says, I want to be a reviewer, and you just plunk your information in there, and then we follow up with you. Additionally, needing resources, you can nominate resources through the site. So some of you, based on whatever story or experience you've had to look for resources, or maybe you've developed something really fantastic. Maybe you borrowed something from someone else. We want to know about that. So we have a way to nominate resources through the site. And likewise, you click on that button that says nominate a resource, and you fill in the blanks, and that comes right on to us. With regard to the leadership team, this is where we also need involvement to really grow this resource. As I said earlier, we need leadership team. We're in the process of transitioning leadership from Gail's initial site development and coordination, and we want to develop this into a team that rotates with a defined term, so that we see the end. We don't own it forever. So this team would be involved in the leadership, the decision making for the site, and would help manage the site as well as the peer review process. So if that sounds like something you want to be a part of and want to contribute to, we want to know about that too. And likewise, we need some people that are savvy with Google Sites to help us with the site support. You know, sometimes if that's not your thing, it can really slow down what is a simple request, posting, changing, modifying, whatever. I know that I'm not a super whiz with Google Sites, and so that would slow down the process of getting some stuff up there. So we're looking for some people that could join our team that have that skill set and would be, you know, willing to help us keep that site useful and current and relevant, really. So we asked for a lot of participation and contribution during the September conference last fall. And if you're sitting in the room and you were there and you donated or nominated something or volunteered to do something, you're saying, hey, we haven't heard from them. And that is true. That is true. Just timing and projects and involvement and so forth, we have been slow to follow up. But this is on our radar to transition the site leadership, I would anticipate by this fall, to catch up on those resources that have been nominated, to get that new support team and reviewers in place, and really move forward with this resource repository. So that wraps it up for me. Just wanted to give you a little update on what that is, where we are at with the repository. Really want to shout out to Gail for her vision, her direction, her leadership, and thank her for that. That's her email if you want to contact her directly. But if you have things that you're looking for, or you know, things that I can answer questions directly, you can always contact me. But run as much of your questions, you know, or nominations for reviewers and site leadership and resources, run those nominations through the site so that they follow the protocol that we have already in existence. So I will pause there. Pam, I hope you all heard me, and I will be happy to field any questions.
We heard you not once, but twice, and 3 times, and 4 times, and 5 times. Any questions for Sherry? All right, Sherry, thank you for your time, and thanks for coming in.
Yes.
We can turn that one off, Mike or John. I apologize for the lack of speakers. We weren't. Yeah. Thank you, thank you, thank you. Hey, John. So Gail mentioned, or Sherry mentioned, that things have slowed down. Everything that's happening right now. Let me get rid of this. Are you muted, John?
Yeah. Let me see if I can get.
There you go. He's muted. So everything that's occurring, thanks, Terry. Everything that's occurring right now is being done by volunteers. And you all have full schedules, full slates, full programs, and everybody's really busy. So it's only going to go at the speed of what we can accomplish with volunteers. So we do have these kind of ebbs and flows where we really get things going, and then because of our lives and our busy schedules, things kind of slow down. So it's going to keep moving forward. We have great leadership team. We have great committee right now. We've got great people like Mike and others who are leading projects. So we just have to keep the momentum moving forward. If you are interested, please volunteer. Gail got this started. I was a reviewer for 1 year. If you are on the promotion and tenure process, it's outstanding to be on your dossier to do committee work nationally. I mean, it's big time when you're going for that promotion and tenure process. So doing national work, being part of a national team, being part of a leadership team, all is fantastic, not just for your dossier, but also it helps the cause as well. So let Gail or let Sherry know if you're interested in working on that. And the other thing, I don't know if she mentioned, but it doesn't have to necessarily be a resource that you created. If you found something that's a really good, solid resource that you use all the time for your programming, put it up there. So that question about when you get a hold of a resource, that evaluation tool can go right on here. It could be program specific, or it could be just a general template and, you know, to be used for any kind of evaluation tool. So that kind of stuff needs to be put on here as well. So are there any questions about the resources? So I'm really excited that Sherry's taking it over and getting it back up to speed again. All right, with that, Miss Lucy, we will turn it over. I'm going to close you out, Mike. I'm going to close this out. I'm going to close this out. I'm going to close this out. I'm going to bring you up. Yeah, put you on stage. With that, I'm going to introduce Lucy Bradley, who is not only part of the initial niche program, but also co-chair of this conference. So, Lucy, it's all yours. Yeah,
I didn't share. I'm not good at sharing. Yeah, the microphone is. There we go. Right there. More graceful than I. You know, hardly tangled up in your cord. Is it, over here's good. Okay. So back in 2012, we're going to talk about the National Initiative for Consumer Horticulture. I'm going to tell you where we started and where we are, and Pam's going to talk about where we're headed. So back in 2012, the Southern Association of Ag Experiment Stations offered to do a grantsmanship training program. And they were going to cover all the expenses, bring in outstanding trainers, put together a team. And so we put together a team to go to Atlanta to this training. And we were one team doing consumer hort. We're in the same room with local foods and with fruits and all these other groups in ag. And got this great training. And then our assignment is, okay, identify all the places that you're going to apply to get funding. And so we're all kind of like looking around the table at each other, looking at, and doing all these other tables, like, they had all these places that they could go and look for money, and we could we could kind of twist ourselves sideways and say this, and maybe we could qualify for that, but there really wasn't much. So after the workshop, I went up to Washington to talk to Tom Buick, who's our national program leader, and I said, we're doing important work. We're doing things that impact the environment. We're doing things that impact health. We have huge economic impact. Why are there no support? Why are there no resources available? And he said, you're not only doing all of that, you have voters. And that's currency in Washington. And so he said, I really believe exactly what you're saying is true, and that we need to make it happen, but we need to be thoughtful and strategic about how we do that. And so what he suggested is that we pull together a team of folks to look at creating a national initiative, so that we needed to be able to clearly define what we were about, where we were going to have our impact. We needed to work together as a team. We'd all been doing our own thing. We need to be able to speak with a collective voice about, and that voice needed to be not only extensively speaking together. This is something we needed to think about. Okay, but it also needed to be the industry. It needed to be nonprofits and other organizations to be able to talk together as a group. We needed to raise our level of visibility and to be able to talk about the significance of the work that we're doing. And he said, this has been done really well before. The Specialty Crops Initiative was nothing until they got that initiative passed, and then suddenly in 2007 they've got block research grants, they've got crop research initiative, they got the Clean Plant Network. And because they followed this strategy in an organized way, they made a profound difference. And so this gave us all hope that this is a pathway we could walk, and that would really make a difference. So we said, what? We've got millions of people. We've got gardeners. We've got nurseries. We've got all this group. We've got a great message that there's a positive thing. Everybody wants something positive. And we're dealing with really important issues. We can make this happen. So we're looking at increasing funding and capacity for our ability to make a difference. We were looking at better describing our profile, being able to better articulate what those impacts are, like what Mike's talking about, and have an opportunity to, as a group, shape the national agenda and bring resources for us to do our jobs more effectively. So we put together a steering committee of folks from across the country, some of them in extension, some of them in nonprofits, some in public gardens, master gardeners, a whole array of folks that come to the table to try and work on developing a strategic plan for how to get there. So the first thing we did was to develop a mission that was global enough to cover all the things that we wanted to do, and growing a healthy world through plants, gardens, and landscapes. I'm embarrassed to tell you how many meetings it took to come up with those few number of words, but we did. That's where we came. The vision that the team came up with was using stakeholder partnerships to increase the percentage of U.S. households participating in consumer horticulture. So get more people gardening, and all the great things that we do, those will flow.
these are the core values that the team adopted. So diversity and inclusion, not just, not excluding people, but making everyone feel welcome and appreciated. Recognizing a service, we're about giving and making a difference. Looking at all, research, extension, and outreach and education. All of these things were part of what we wanted to be about, and that accountability and being relevant were really important. So we had 2 workshops at the ASHS National Conference. So the whole thing was dedicated toward launching niche, and Tom Buick was a part of both of them. John Clark came to the second one. He was really a big part of the crop initiative. And so we got a lot more people engaged in caring about moving this forward. We had public meetings. So we had a public meeting in Washington. We did a webinar for folks to get information about it. We held the second one, national meeting in Denver. From all of that, we came up with 3 main goals. We started out with 7 lofty goals, and we distilled those into three workable goals. And so one of them has to do with health, connected and engaged communities, specifically looking at educating the public on the benefits of horticulture so they really understand the value. Beyond being pretty, what else is it doing for you? Informing policymakers about the impact and be able to speak their language about what matters and why they care about it, so that we can, that they can understand and appreciate the importance. Looking at promoting consumer horticulture as a strategy for dealing with human health and nutrition and obesity and all of those things. And then specific strategies for motivating people to garden. The second goal is the economic impact, and being able to talk about what is the economic impact of horticulture, and how do you define that and measure that and report that. And this is one of the things that you have on the table. This is the product of this team. This is their first product, and this is looking at putting some numbers together around what's the economic impact and importance of consumer horticulture. So they were looking at documenting that impact, building partnerships across the spectrum, having a component on training the workforce, helping retail operations make more money, and stimulating entrepreneurial activities are all within their window. Goal number 3 is the natural resources and the environmental part. So this is one that Pam is the person. Oh, she's the people person. Okay. Yeah, okay. Okay. So restore, protect, and conserve natural resources through research and education. So being able to measure and communicate what those environmental impacts are. You talked about the importance of saying what's the water quality, what's water quantity, and stuff. So what exactly are we going to measure, and how are we going to measure, and how are we going to report that so that people know? Promoting sustainable practices, promoting appropriate use of inputs, so pesticides, fertilizers, all of that. Identifying positive environmental impacts that result, so whether that's diversity or pollinator habitat, and being able to articulate that. And then also dealing with invasive species. So this is the current structure of Niche. So Casey Sklar is the chair, and Ellen Bowski and Tom Underwood are co-chairs. Pam Bennett is chairing the community goal. Debbie Hamrick is the economics, and Julie Weisenhorn is environmental. Then we also have councils that are, like these are topic areas, these committees. These councils represent specific areas because we wanted to make sure that we had their voice at the table. So there's an academic and government council. So Rick Durham and Margaret Fuller are doing that one. We have a commercial council and a nonprofit council. So I'm going to turn it over to Pam to talk about where you think. Well, let me show you these really quick. Okay. So here's the website that you can go to, and really appreciate you coming in, looking and seeing what's there, commenting, getting involved. There's a lot of opportunity on those committees for people to be engaged and be a part of that. And you can also subscribe to the listserv. So if you go to go.ncsu.edu, subscribe -niche, then you can be on the list and get information as it comes out. So those are some of the kind of the big picture of niches. We're creating a unified voice, and we're unifying academia, government, industry, and nonprofits. Okay, so Pam's going to tell you where we're headed next.
Thank you. Thanks, Lucy. So how many of you have heard of niche in terms of the efforts? How many of you have never heard of it? Okay, all right, good. So let me get down here to past Lucy's. To this. So this is another one of those that currently right now is a volunteer effort. Everybody on this group is a volunteer, but she showed in the organizational structure is volunteer. Currently, the executive committee is meeting every other Tuesday. It's taking a tremendous amount of effort to get some of this information put down on paper. It is a mind-boggling, overwhelming giant to put your arms around, because I'm finally, after being 2 years involved in it, sort of understanding a little bit about how we might address this. So it's been a challenge, but I think it's important. And I think, as Lucy said, the water quality, all the things, everything that she talked about, we are involved in directly, because our volunteers are going to be the deliverers of a lot of this information. So as Lucy said, we have 3 committees right now. I'm in charge of this one. It used to be called the social, and it was the social benefits of consumer horticulture, and it was also the community benefits. It had a lot of different names. And as Sherry Dorn pointed out, putting on your dossier that you're on this national committee and you're in charge of the social committee, or you are on the social committee, we really struggle with that. So just last week, the executive committee approved our name. It's now Healthy and Engaged Communities. Because again, it's all about that connected, healthy, engaged communities. So last year in Atlanta at ASHS, all of these 3 committees met, and these 3 committees are made up of a bunch of different people, not just academia. We have nonprofits on there. We have public garden people on there. We have industry people on there. So it's getting everybody together. So our committee kind of started looking at our objectives, and we started brainstorming. We want to hit the ground running, but it's a challenge right now because we're not exactly sure what that target is going to be. So we're still in that process, that phase. But the first thing that was done, we applied for a grant from NIFA. And the proposal to apply for the grant was approved. So in March, the grant actually went in, and we are now in the process of waiting to hear if we get that grant. That grant will allow us to have a planning committee meeting, face-to-face planning meeting rather, within the next year, probably from August through the next year, August, where we can actually sit down now and actually start to structure our business plan. Last week at our committee meeting, we said we have to have a business plan. Let's go ahead. So even if we don't get funded by NIFA, how is this going to work? Because the idea, like Lucy mentioned, the peach group, for instance, the peach growers, they got tons of money. They now hire an executive director. They've got somebody nationally that helps organize all this. They've got paid, they're doing a lot of work, but they're doing it with money. So even if we don't get funded, we know we want to still continue moving this forward. So we're putting together a business plan. We need volunteers who are good at doing business plans. So if you have an opportunity or you know about business plans, let me know. We'll let them know. We'll get you on that committee. This is definitely not just a few certain people doing this. This is going to take a lot of people working together. So the business plan was one thing we need. The next thing we need people who like to plan meetings. So we're planning that meeting. We're getting started right now. If you want to be on a committee to plan that face-to-face meeting, you can be involved in this in a lot of different ways. You go to the website to get involved, and you can just put your name in there. Now, one of the challenges that at least I've had with our committee, initially we didn't have a lot of stuff to do. So we were getting a lot of people on this committee, but we really we didn't have anything at that point to really work on. So we were trying to formulate what we're going to work on. We're now at the point where we can take committee members. Our first job is literature review. So one of our goals is to educate the public about the social benefits and the community benefits and the health benefits. So we are reviewing all the literature that's out there on horticulture in the medical journals, not just the horticulture journals, but everything outside of that. And one of the things that Debbie Hamrick, the chair of the economic committee, she said, all these other groups, and if you think about it, All these other groups are doing research on the benefits of horticulture, the social benefits of horticulture, the health benefits of horticulture. But what are the horticulture people doing? We're doing research on growing plants and the logistics of horticulture. So what's out there? What's the gap? What are we missing? And what do we need to either update in terms of research, or what kind of research needs to be done? So that's just one of those opportunities for our particular committee. So we're doing a literature review, and all three committees are involved with that. Julie Weisenhorn's on the environmental committee. So all three of us are doing this literature review to see what's out there. Then we're going to take and summarize that information, look at those gaps, and then start to focus on, okay, now here's the information. How do we get it out to the public? What's the educational program? ASHS. Oh, at the workshop? Okay, yeah. So Lucy's putting together a workshop at ASHS, which is in Hawaii this year. So if you really need to go to Hawaii to see this workshop, it'll be a good trip. So basically the three of our committee chairs, we're putting the information together that we're gathering, we're doing the literature review, and then we'll present kind of our findings hopefully at that point in August, or in September rather, in Hawaii. And just a simple challenge of doing a literature review. What journals is everybody on the committee going to look at? Who's going to look at? I mean, the bare logistics of doing this has just been so overwhelming. We're finally chunking it out, biting little pieces. We're getting down to the point now where we have a spreadsheet where we're looking at the journals. Does this fit our criteria? Is it something maybe the environmental group might want to look at? It's not just professional literature. It's also websites. It's also popular press and so forth. But just anything that looks and espouses the benefits of horticulture, whether it's economic, environmental, or social. So we're in that process right now. As I talked to Lucy, I'm like, Lucy, you got me into this. What am I supposed to do? How am I supposed, where do we go from here? She said, look at the low-hanging fruit. What are the low-hanging things that you can do right now? One of the things that we're looking at is the social media efforts. And Susie McCoy, and here's the big thing. Casey Spar is the director of the American Public Gardens Association. Susie McCoy is the president and owner of Garden Media Group. We got big-time, powerful people that are recognized nationwide helping with this effort. So Susie is putting together a marketing committee, and they're looking at, okay, what's going to be our hashtag? So we decided our hashtag, we might have 3 hashtags. One is going to be hashtag plants do that. They already came up with this. One of them is going to be hashtag find your niche. One of them is going to be hashtag and then the type of plants, like if it's vegetables or succulents or anything like that. We're staying away from garden, and all those other hashtags. We're trying to find specific hashtags that can be recognized. And we're trying to start at this level now so that we're all saying the same message. And that's the biggest thing that I've seen, the confusion of it. We're all excited about it. We all want to get the word out there. But we also want to have a message that is the same everywhere we go. So the Economic Committee put this together with the help of American Port. You've seen this on social media recently. So we're not doing very good with that. We've got to really get that out there. But again, I feel that Master Gardeners are really going to be powerful in this effort. Once we know what the effort is and we know our target, they're going to be very powerful in this effort to get the word out about the values of consumer horticulture.
We can all help too. So if they post it, and then post that, and it gets spread out to us, and we spread it to volunteers, and we spread it. That's that networking is a huge asset that we can extend to that.
Yeah, you look at the number of volunteers in your counties. How many volunteers you have in your county? 190. So you get that to 190 people, and it just multiplies. So that's one of the things that they're focusing on is that social media and the marketing strategy. Again, Lucy showed the organization. By all means, there's plenty of room for people to get involved. It's not just a few people. It's going to take a lot of people to do this. And I'm very passionate about it because I've heard a lot of people say, well, what is consumer horticulture? We don't need to fund that. Universities are look at the consumer horticulture programs in universities. They're floundering because we are not out there tooting our own horn, shouting about the great things that we're doing. So I feel very strongly that Master Gardeners are going to be an integral role in this component. They're going to be very important, tying in what you're talking about, the evaluation. Clint Albin, who is in the commercial part, if you read any popular trade magazines, he's doing a lot of articles. He's well known in the industry. He and I are going to put together an article about Master Gardeners and what Master Gardeners are doing. Because somebody on that phone call a couple weeks ago said, you tell a Master Gardener about a certain product or a certain plant, and everybody buys it because they spread that word like wildfire.
So this group knows and realizes the value of master gardeners. We haven't quite put it into a dollar value yet, but we will. But we need additional people to work on this group. So if you want to sign up, which committee you want to be on, sign up, or let me know if you want to be on the social committee. We will put you on there and we'll get you involved in this. And it may not be like jump in right now and there's a lot to do, but it may just be get the word out. Be a partner and get the information, the word out. So, anything else, Lucy, to add to that? Yes.
I really like this infographic, but website or contact information on it. So, if you all want us to link back to each, well, a lot of people say infographics and share them, not the literature source.
Good point.
Share your contact information.
We will get that on there.
And if you can send a PDF to us, we can print it off in our own counties. I was thinking, I love a poster that's right outside my office door, so that my stakeholders, when they go by.
I'm not going to send you anything because I'm going to let you go right here.
There you go. So the website is consumerhort.org. That's, yeah, the website's consumerhort.org. Adding the website on here to consumerhort.org is brilliant. I did see how many people have looked at this and reviewed it. Well, the logo is going to change. We just voted on that last week. Where's the logo here? I forget where the logo went. Yeah, the logo on that. Yeah. So what does this logo remind you of? No, what does this remind you of? Bear Advance. Yeah, none of us can look at this without saying, oh God, this looks like Bear Advance. So our executive committee last week said, no more. The logo's gone. We're going to create a new logo. They're going to work with some people to create a new logo. So that can be added at the very least. You can definitely use a website. That's great to have on. This is exciting that you guys are excited about this because we need this just kind of getting out there. Hopefully, I put in for a proposal at NACAA to get the extension educators involved because the people that are on this committee, the public gardens, the media, they realize the value of extension. They realize the power of extension. So we are really involved in trying to help this whole effort nationwide. So that's a great suggestion. What else? Anything else? We, at one point, we were going to stop at 25, but we're going back further because Diane Rell from Virginia Tech, according to Sherry Dorn, who was, I think, one of her grad students, had some great stuff before 2005 that maybe it just needs to be updated. So we're going back as far as we have to go back. And if you like to do literature reviews, let me know because we have, I mean, if you think about all the different journals and everything to review, and again, not to make excuses, but the challenge of 10 people looking at all these resources, how do you just simply plainly divide it among people? I'll do these, just that whole logistical piece of it right there is a challenge. But if you like to do literature reviews, by all means, let me know. You can do them for any of the 3 committees. You get involved. No, you will be part of it. No. So basically we just finished piloting our spreadsheet. So we've got a spreadsheet that's in Google Docs or maybe Docs. And that was another challenge is just where do we keep all this information that we're gathering? So the spreadsheet has the journal, then it has some criteria that we're looking at. Does this fit into this particular category? Does it need to be reviewed? Or does it need to be updated? Is it current and so forth? The date and the abstract summary. So we'll review that, but that's the thing right now. We're going to brainstorm the list of all the different journals that we need to look at. And we've got somebody from Teresia, I can't think of her last name. She's from Oregon. But, yes, but she's in healthcare, and she's doing horticulture therapy. And she's got all of these different journals that she uses that I wouldn't look at because I'm horticulture. So we're trying to reach out and spread out and get as many of those journals, and we'll all just say, okay, I'm going to take this one, I'm going to take this one, I'm going to take this one. I'll do the literature review going back to however far, and we're just basically chunking off just like that. So if you have something, we can get you connected to a spreadsheet, and then you would go through and say, I'm willing to take this, we'll give everybody deadlines, and Just go through and review it. And the review is just basically, does it meet the social, the community impacts? Is this something that reflects? Is there detailed information that we can pull out of here and then use? Okay. One of the things last year I talked to, many of you know Bridget Behe from Michigan, great researcher on economics and horticulture. And I said, Bridget, you know, how do we crack this nut? How do we get people to appreciate? And he said, you need to talk about it. You just need to talk about it. You need to take Charlie Hall's top 10 benefits of horticulture and just get out there and tell people about it. Just very simple. So it was very eye-opening to talk to her about it, because it's like, yeah, we are talking about, here's how you grow vegetables, here's how you grow trees, here's how you take care of it, but we're not talking about plants do that. So that's kind of looking at a different perspective from what we're used to doing. So, any thoughts, comments? Anybody else want to get involved? Nicole?
I want to get involved.
Okay. And you said this is in your first year? Oh, honey, we got lots of stuff you can do. I like those new things you don't really know. She does it. Yeah, I could. I hope that.
So what are you doing with like garden golf stuff? I'm a horticultural therapist too. So
Beautiful.
Are we working with her to update it, or are we talking?
Right now we're doing a literature review and identifying the gaps. What information is out there? What don't we know? What do we need? And you know, Ohio State came out from the social, whatever department it was, social sciences. They came out, they're doing a research on community gardens, the value of community gardens. The social sciences program is doing that, not horticulture, the values of community gardens. And I'm like, I wouldn't even have known that was happening if I hadn't just accidentally seen that piece of information. So just looking at the gaps, what's missing? So that's great. All right, anything else for the good of the cause? All right, so it is 11:38. Oh, we're in great shape.
And we have room on the vans for everybody who wants to go on the van. You can drive by yourself. There's a $14 fee. Yeah. So it's not your own for the parking. There's also a fee for you to and I will pay that.
Okay, sorry, taken care of.
Well, we took care of
Oh, for numbers, okay. All right. So you're heading out now, is what you're saying? No, we're done. Unless anybody has something else to say, we're done.
Where do we go, Vans?
Hang on.
Okay, so there's lunches will be up here in the hall, box lunches. The Sundays for other people, so we need to get box lunches. If you ordered a special meal, they ordered vegan or vegetarian or whatever it is. One that is both vegan and vegetarian.